Hey everybody, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here with a special guest tonight, Eric Slauson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
All right, I'm doing quite well.
Alright, so Eric is a game designer with multiple titles under his belt at this point. Eric, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell us what you do.
So I'm a game designer. Mostly what I do, or the games that I have published anyway, are party and social games. I've done some other things that are coming soon that are more narrative based, or more traditional board game things. And In my day job, I am an educational technology specialist for a high school. So that's kind of what I do during my normal time, and then at night and weekends and on lunch breaks and stuff, I'm doing board game stuff. So
Awesome. So actually, before the questions start flowing in, I have a question for you. So one of the games that you designed is called Tattoo Stories. What made you want to do a game about tattoos? Are you like a tattoo enthusiast with a lot of tattoos, or do you just like tattoo art?
The first half, yes. I'm a big tattoo enthusiast. I love tattoos, and I'm just entranced by the art form and the artistry it takes. And it's similar to things like graffiti or any art, like sculpture. My brain can't understand how you paint on that type of canvas. As somebody who can't even draw, I can't think about drawing on somebody's muscle or a canvas that wiggles. But yeah, so I was really impressed by just the whole thing. And I was actually reading a tattoo coffee table book about tattoo art and some famous tattoo artists. And then I was like, man, there should be, I wish there was something that kind of like celebrated that art form. So then I just designed a game around it, and kind of got deep into the rabbit hole of, what are the most common elements that are in tattoos, and from all that research, that ended up being the prompt cards. And then I mixed that with like just cards that were like weird curveballs that probably aren't super common, but would be funny if somebody had a tattoo of them. So I'm just a big fan of the arts in general, and it has come through in a lot of my designs. Either they have to do with like writing or drawing. A lot of them are arts focused.
That's awesome. Yeah,
but I do not have any tattoos.
You don't have any? Have you ever been tempted to get one?
All the time, yes. And most of the reason I don't have tattoos is because most of the time later I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't get that tattoo. So I remember when I was younger, I wanted to get like a Matrix tattoo.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I'm like, it was so cool at the time. It was like the coolest, and it still is. The first Matrix is still neat, but like not enough to be branded with whatever Neo or whatever I wanted at the time.
That's fair enough. So I actually have one. Yeah. I got one tattoo. I've had it for just over a year, and I knew that it was going to be the right tattoo because I wanted it since college, and I just turned 34. So I studied like Coptic. It's this dead language, Egyptian language in school, and I checked out this book that was called Coptic Tattoo Designs, and it was about like tattoo shop that has been giving tats since the Crusades, and the same family just like lives there and generationally passes on the art of giving tattoos. And they have these like woodblock stamps, so they stamp you and they tat it if you're like a pilgrim to Jerusalem and you go. So I went to Jerusalem and I got a ancient woodblock tattoo. It was cool.
See, that's awesome. And that's what I wanted to come through in the game, is that storytelling, that story behind your tattoo, and that you had like a reason to do it. Unless you're absolutely drunk or something when you go into the parlor, most of the time you have a good reason why you want that tattoo. So that kind of shows up in the game as well.
All right, so we have a question from Kabuki Kid. Hey, Kabuki. All right, so what is Eric's favorite game and favorite type of game to play?
Ooh. Well, as a social and party game designer, I like a lot of party games and social games. Some of the more recent ones that I really like. Just One is an incredible game. Just a great a little party game. There's a game called Medium that's really cool. That has to do with like kind of making a mental link with another player. You're trying to think of a common word between two other words. So, if it's like hammer is one player and then, hand is another card, then you could be like nail because, that's like a common idea between the two of them. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm really into that game. There's a new game called Hues and Cues that I'm super into that is like about color. So a lot of party social games. That's not all that I play, but it's what I'm drawn to and what I tend to design the most. So you try to kind of consume the higher echelon of your field and kind of learn from the masters at work. But my favorite game of all time is Happy Salmon, which people say that is both very surprising and not surprising at all once you get to know me and my kind of design philosophy. But it plays in micro bursts. I've never seen anybody not have a great time when they play it. You immediately understand the rules. You can play it multiple times. It's just a great experience, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to make as good experiences.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you're working on narrative designs for things that are coming up. So how are you incorporating narrative into your very social party game philosophy?
Ooh, that's a good idea or a good question. So it's a little bit more straightforward in tattoo stories because you're actually there. It's partially a drawing game, but you're only really using the drawing as a supporting document for your pitch. It's really a pitching game. You draw this tattoo and then you have to pitch it to the customer. And you're awarded points based on your idea, not the quality of your drawing. So in tattoo stories, that narrative, that persuasive writing kind of is the core of it. And something like Monstrosity, where you're kind of police sketch artists drawing these aliens based on witness testimony. It's more about detail. So as a writer, detail is very important. So you're talking about how many legs this monster had, and did it have scales or did it have wings, or how long were the legs, and so on and so forth. So it really gets at that side of writing. So in my designs, my party game designs, there's usually it pulls from my time as like an English teacher, where you're persuasive writing, or you're talking about details, or you're talking about listening and communication. But in the games that I'm working on that I can't quite talk about, but very soon, they're more you playing through a narrative that I have created or helped create. So it's about giving players good decision points, making twists and choices and that kind of stuff. So, and that comes from, I have done like DMing, for D&D and stuff, and, done my own fiction writing. So, that has been an interesting thing to kind of actually get paid to write a story, but an interactive one, which is cool.
That's awesome. All right, so we have a question, which is, do you like solo board gaming? Any favorites? It's okay if you don't, and I'll ask a follow-up after you answer.
I do. I have one. Yes. I have one right here. I have Deep Space D6, which if you are a solo gamer, you have probably heard of it. But yeah, Deep Space D6 is pretty great. I like Hostage Negotiator. I'm trying to think of some other ones that I have that play solo. a lot of games on mobile, like Onirim is really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, but aside from like puzzly ones, like Onirim, I can play several times because and you're score chasing. It's similar to something like Gauchon Clever or something like that. But these games like Hostage Negotiator or Deep Space D6, I find that I tend to play them until I beat them, and then I'm like done. Like it's great and it's fun, and I learned the system. And once I feel like I have mastered, I guess, the system, then I pass it along to somebody else who I think would enjoy it. So I treat solo games more as like like an interactive, um, you know, movie or a book or something like that. Like sometimes you find one that you want to play over and over again or watch over and over again, and sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that was good, but I'm done.
So here's my follow-up question before we move back to chat questions, which is, so you're a party game guy. Are you having any success playing them online right now? Like, are you playing over Zoom, or are you just waiting to be able to see people again?
Well, it's one of those things that like I wish I could take credit, like I knew this was coming, or I really designed it with Zoom in mind. No, it just happens very luckily. All three games that I have out work great over Zoom, and I have people sending me messages and texts and screenshots of people of everybody playing these big group games of Tattoo Stories or Nerd Words. And then Monstrosity, we've been doing some live streams on Deepwater Games' website. We've been doing some live streams, and so that one's worked on Zoom and Google Meet and stuff as well. So it has worked out that way. I didn't intend it from the beginning. It's just a happy accident, but. Right now, as I'm designing, I think I have a couple of ideas that I'm noodling with, and it is something that I think a lot of designers are starting to kind of keep in mind. Like, game development is like, takes a year to 3 years until a game comes out. A year is very fast, but probably 2 around that time. And I hope that we're not in the same situation 2 years from now. But I think the concept play it with Zoom, or should you just design in the hopes that one day people will be able to play it as a group? So I don't know. That's something I'm kind of keeping in mind.
Makes sense. All right, so this question is basically about bicycles. So, Eric, is Games by Bicycle pretty new to the board game industry, and are you privy to any of the creative development?
Ooh, privy.
What secrets can you tell us on this media channel broadcast to the world?
What can I say? So yes, relatively new. I was one of the first 3 games that they made, which was really cool. A really cool experience, kind of being a part of that history, because they made playing cards for like 130 years or something now. And so like, when you get they're hey, we want to make up board games. It's like the first time in 100-something years, and we're like this international company. It's like a lot of pressure. My imposter syndrome is like, are you sure you want my game to be one of the first ones that you make? But it's done pretty well for them, I think. And they released my game, a game called It's Blunderful, and then Shuffle Grand Prix, which is more of a kind of a strategy card game, like a family game. And then they just released their next wave of 3 games, the Alpha, Exchange, and I think there's a third one, or maybe it's just those 2. And then later on, I think they have some more coming, but I'm not sure what has been announced and what I can talk about yet. But they do have more games coming. And as far as like development stuff, they've done a really great job as far as their not branding. I guess their their boxes are very eye-catching
Mm-hmm.
and very good at showing like what the game is. So if you look at the alpha, you're like, oh yeah, wolves. It's like nature themed. It's like a cool, Appalachian style, like not a watercolor, but exchange. You can look at it and be like, oh, this is an economics game. It's got like the stock arrows going up and down. Tattoo Stories, the box is incredible. They did like this spot foil on it that is just like really eye catching. So just a great job as far as components, and that's why they've stuck around for 130 years, as they don't skimp on the on the quality of their stuff. So and I think they're really building this brand, and getting people to know that yes, we make tabletop games now, and I think their new campaign is like I think it's Everybody's Got Game, and that's I think what they're trying to do is they're making games for like everybody. So they make some party games, they make some social deduction games, they make some word games, they make some economic games or whatever, and which is a thing that I really respect as a company. They have something in these different avenues for gateway games in these different spheres. So we'll see. I know of some things, but I can't go into all the details. But keep an eye out because they have some new titles.
Come on, it's only us. So, a tattoo-related question. If you had to get a tattoo tonight, what would it be?
So the most recent, because people keep asking me about tattoos and what I would want. I think I would want like a line on my a wrist, a line of like icons. As a designer, I use a lot of icons and prototypes and stuff on my like Always on the Noun project or GameIcons.net or whatever. But they would be different icons of different art forms. Because I like over my life I've like collected like hobbies and art forms. Like I did stand-up comedy for years. I like wrote. Now I'm in board game design. I made movies. Like I just am making art in all these different ways. So I would want like a film reel and like a board game piece and like a microphone and different things that I've done. So either that or a full back Spider-Man logo.
I mean, either would be awesome. Let's be real. All right, so stand-up comedy. You are a Renaissance man, but man, was that scary to do?
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting. How I got into that is I went to college to be a teacher, and I thought I don't have a lot of like public speaking experience, and I'm gonna have to talk as my job, in front of people who don't want to learn what I am trying to teach them. So like, how do you practice that?
So you went to the most hostile audience possible?
Yes. Yeah. Basically, I just, you go into a room of people who are daring you to make them laugh. And then, I just like got into it and, I had a lot of fun with it. And a lot of the guys that I performed with, I ended up kind of putting the kibosh on it once I became a full-time teacher. But a lot of the guys that I came up with have been on like Fallon and all kinds of stuff. So it's cool seeing their careers. I'm like, I know that guy. I'll perform with that guy. Like we went out for burritos after. But
so do your students think that you're funny, or do they think that you're terminally uncool because you're an adult?
Yeah, both of those. I think I'm funny when I'm not trying to be funny. It was easier when I taught sixth grade. Sixth graders thought I was hilarious, just because you just have to say like "but" or whatever, and they just lose it. But now I teach high school, and so I'm like, just the most uncool person ever. And I don't know a lot of their references and stuff. And so all of my references are like not applicable. I'll make some like Jurassic Park reference, and they're like, "What?" So, yeah, it is what it is.
It is. I've never been less cool in my life. I can live with it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
All right, so we have a question. Are you a video gamer? And if so, what's your current video game?
I am. Oh, this is a whole thing. Yes, I am a big video game player. I haven't, like, over the past couple of years, it's been less and less as I've gotten into making games. A lot of my free time goes into that, and so if I've got a few spare minutes, I'm like prototyping or I'm doing something like that. So I have like a huge backlog of like all the games that I've gotten for free on PlayStation Plus or whatever, or Steam sales. Like, I don't know why I'm even buying these. My most recent game is The Last of Us Part 2. I've been playing that, and I have opinions I won't go into. But yes, that is the one that I'm playing right now, and I'm already looking for what my next game will be.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've just been playing Animal Crossing. I know that like everyone's playing Animal Crossing right now, but it is just the reality of my life at this time. Really been enjoying it.
That's fine.
But
I like all the memes. The Animal Crossing memes are great.
Oh, they are. It is true. But I think my all-time favorite, man, I absolutely have a 250 plus hour file of Skyrim on my PlayStation 3.
Nice.
I don't know if I'm proud of that or not.
That's a great game to get lost in.
Oh, and I got lost.
That's why they keep making it.
Whew. It's true. It's true. They do keep making it, and I'm glad because everybody should be able to play it.
Here's a good question. How did you play it like multiple times through, or is that just like one character?
That's one character. I tend to commit.
Oh, like one person.
So I got like the platinum trophy, the vampires and werewolves, like all of it.
Were you a charge in, guns blazing kind of person, or like a stealthy archer mage kind of situation, or what was your play style?
Oh, I'm stealth all the way.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, like I don't like to get into direct confrontations. So I really liked. So I made a Khajiit, and I got my sneak to 100, and I trained up my archery, sure. And I like got some illusion spells that could cause people to fight, so I could actually assassinate people without drawing a weapon of my own at all.
Speaking my language.
I went all around the world to learn quiet casting, so that I wouldn't give myself away. And then it got to where you could just like shoot somebody in the middle of a room, and it's like, it must have been the wind.
This arrow sticking out of my back just came out of nowhere.
So do you also like stealth games like Dishonored and I don't know. Yeah, any of that?
Dishonored's great. Splinter Cell is great. I played Skyrim as a stealth mage. Last of Us 2 is taking me forever because they're like, here's 15 zombies. Kill them any way you want. And I'm like, I will take them out one by one, very slowly. And I was talking to my partner Casey about this yesterday. How I feel like I'm playing it wrong. Like they want me to go in because like I'll spend 30 minutes sneaking around and choking out all these people and shivving zombies like silently, and then I'll walk around the arena and there's like bullets everywhere. Like they wanted to give me bullets and bombs and all kinds of stuff to use. I'm like, no, I got it. It's fine. It's fine.
My boyfriend laughs at me because like when I'm playing a video game, I will just wait and just watch the enemy like guards or whatever go. And I'm not normally a patient person, but then I have like the patience of a saint where that's where the 250 hours come from probably because I'm just like, it's just waiting. All right, so we have a question.
You gotta know the patterns.
Right? All right, so we have a question from Zeal Ash. If you like tabletop RPG, have you ever designed a dice engine, even if it just stayed in your notes?
Oh, yes. That's a great question. I have a dice system that I am like dying to put in a game and use. And I designed a game around it. It's called Verses of Valor. It's not very good, but the system that it's built around is something that I'm still toying with. But essentially, the way it works is. So everybody has like their own D20 or D12 or whatever, and then you all roll it and then put those in a line in ascending order, and that's like your position in the battle line or whatever. It's kind of your rolling initiative, and then the enemy that you're fighting has an individual deck. So if it's a dragon, there's like 6 dragon cards, and some attack the outside edges of the line, some attack the center of the edge, some attack the low end, some attack the high end, and so you kind of use your knowledge of the creature. You're like, oh, dragons always attack the top of the line. So, whoever rolled the 17 or the 20 or whatever, like you need to be in defensive stance because we know the dragon is going to attack the top. Or, oh, goblins are short, so they always attack the low end. So whoever rolled a 1, you should probably defend. And so anyway, you talk through kind of the distribution of the creature deck, and then each D20 decides whether they want to attack or defend based on like kind of a gambling system, and you attack and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I've tried it in like 2 or 3 different themes, and that part is neat. I just got to figure out some other elements to make it sing. But ooh. I do love dice.
I like it. All right, so here's a good question. Have you ever dabbled with the idea of working with an IP? And if not, do you have a dream IP you'd like to work with?
Oh my gosh, I want an IP so bad. I have gotten very close a few times. I was offered an IP once and designed some things for it, and then that fell through. It was like a heartbreaker. I have some opportunities that I'm swinging for right now, trying to pitch some things. It's like the next thing on the bucket list is to get to work on one of these IPs that I really like. The dream IP is something in the Marvel sphere, especially Spider-Man. That's like top tier. Hype 9,000 IP would be working on a Spider-Man game. But yeah, I am such a like pop culture nerd and like movie fanatic and comic geek and stuff. So there's like a ton that I would love to work on, and movies that I've seen 1,000 times, and graphic novels that I love. But Spider-Man is like top of the list.
That's awesome. I admit I'm a Batman person, but Spider-Man is awesome. There's no question.
I also enjoy Batman. He would be way up there as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So you've also been asked, what's your experience with pencil and paper RPGs? You mentioned that you play D&D, so just tell us what kind of character you like to play. What's your standard? I can guess, but
I do play a mage. If given the opportunity, almost always I'm a mage in any kind of RPG system. I don't know. It just seems the coolest to me. I as a D&D player when I was in high school, I played a gnome mage and had a great time, many adventures, and then since then I've only been a DM, so I haven't gotten to play all that much. But and as far as pencil and paper, mostly it's been D&D. I've played with some other systems that aren't quite like D&D heavy, things like there's a system called Expedition that's really neat, that has a lot of user generated content. The box is like basically a core experience of like different monsters and weapons and stuff, and then people can write their own campaigns, upload them online, and you can play other people's campaigns with this core set of materials. So that's cool. I'm a big fan of Kids on Bikes and that series. It's kind of a rules light RPG. It's more about the storytelling. so yeah, I've gotten more and more into like these alternative RPGs, things like Thousand Year Old Vampire.
I bought that today.
So, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm really falling deep into the weird RPG rabbit hole right now.
That's awesome. So I got Thousand Year Old Vampire today. I'm glad to hear you mention it because I'm assuming it's going to be good. Is there anything else with that general like vibe, like a good solo pen and paper that you would recommend?
A solo one. Man, I wish Banana were here. Banana Chan is my like my go-to weird RPG person. I know she and Sin from Lim have a game coming out called Jiangxi, I believe. Blood in the Is it Blood in the Banquet Hall, or am I thinking of a different game? I don't know. They have a Kickstarter coming up where you own a restaurant, and there's like vampires and stuff. So it's like part about owning a restaurant and part about fighting vampires and stuff. It's very neat. I'm excited for that. There's a Kickstarter that either just ended or is going on now. Something about Alice. Does that sound familiar?
I just backed like a zine that Travis Hill is working on that's like mostly solo RPGs. That was like $9, so that was a no-brainer. I went for that. And there's some other solo RPG thing that's on. So Kickstarter's an interesting place.
This one's you play over text message with a bunch of people. But yeah, as far as solo ones, I don't know. I think Thousand Year Old Vampire is probably the gold standard right now as far as ones that I have heard the most about.
Awesome. All right, so here's a question. What is your big hobby outside of board games?
Ooh, outside of board games. Not video games. Thinking about like a non-media one. I mean, I watch a lot of movies. I have everything, and Prime and Hulu and Netflix and HBO, and I used to go to the theater all the time. I had like the subscriber AMC Stubs pass or whatever.
Same.
So yeah, I'm a big media junkie. If I'm not doing that, I'm also watching TV. We're in like this golden age of television, with like just Watchmen and Mad Men and Breaking Bad. Like there's every season there's some incredible work of art to get lost in. So big TV person as well. But I think outside of media, cooking, I really enjoy cooking. And plating especially. I love...
So do you give people like tiny portions and then drizzle? No, I'm joking.
No, I do. Yeah. And my girlfriend hates it. Because I'm like, dinner's ready. And then, there's like two servings. The first serving is like the way I want it to look. And, and it's like a little, thing. And it's like a little... the sides are over here, and there's like a dollop of sauce and like a little sprig of rosemary or whatever on the top.
Are you doing like foams, emulsions?
Yeah.
That's actually hilarious. I like it.
Dollops. We take a picture, and then it's like, okay, now let's actually get the food that we want. We just like slop stuff on the plate. So yeah, it's a process sometimes.
That's fantastic. I'm a horrible cook. I am really glad that no one cares that I can't cook. I'm very undomesticated in every way. It's like, I'll just make the same thing the third night in a row. I have like 2 dishes that I can make. Sure. I've improved over the years, but...
What are those 2 dishes? What's your signature dishes?
So things I make really well, I make really good artichoke dip because you can't mess it up. It's just like cheese and mayo and like garlic powder and artichoke hearts, and you just mash it up in the oven. It turns out great. I do make very good guacamole because I'm from Texas.
Oh, nice. You got the sauces on lock. Sauces and dips.
Yeah, I'm like the appetizer person at potluck. I'm like, appetizer, got it. Or I'll just go buy a bakery dessert and totally... Actually,
that's fine. Somebody made it.
Right? So my big dessert trick is I get those just those ready to bake cookie dough things. The Nestle Toll House ones are the best. You just put them in. Nobody knows the difference. It's fine. Also, they're delicious. I know you're not supposed to eat them, but I do. Just straight out. Like, I don't even bake them.
Live your life. It's fine.
I once actually referred to them as ready to eat cookies. And it was just true.
You like eating cookie cubes.
I do.
Cubes of cookie dough.
They're delicious. I always take my cut. That's what my boyfriend refers to. He's like, "Did you take your cut?" Every time I like bake the cookies, I take one. I just eat the
skimming off the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the payment I give myself for doing anything that involves the kitchen.
I'll send you some very easy recipes that have a much less risk of salmonella or anything.
Yes, I'm living dangerously right now. But I tried that, like, you know, the edible cookie dough you can buy at the store now? It's not that good.
Yeah.
I was not impressed with the one I tried. It was disgusting.
It's not dangerous. It's not, there's no danger.
That's it. It's gotta be it. It's just the extra, like, adrenaline rush of eating cookie dough that could be the last thing I ever eat, but it's just so good. All right, what is your favorite non-superhero comic book, and also what's your favorite non-superhero comic book movie?
Non-superhero comic book movie probably is Road to Perdition.
Ooh, okay.
A lot of people don't know that's like a graphic novel. But yeah, that movie is awesome, and I'm a big like noir, you know, bootlegger. Like in the 20s to the 50s is just cool. Everybody wears suits all the time, and there's like Tommy guns. I'm like into it. So yeah, Road to Perdition is super neat. That's probably my immediate thought for things that aren't powers related. There was a really interesting graphic novel that I read called Nimona. It's a middle grades graphic novel, and I'm afraid to like say anything about it because the whole thing is about like subversion, like subverting your expectations within this genre, but it's like this fantasy knights and wizards kind of book, but a lot of it toys with a lot of tropes, I'll say that. But really cool graphic novel. You know, I said it's like for probably 8th grade area, but I read it as an adult, and it's super dope. What was the first question? Graphic novel?
Oh, just your favorite non-superhero comic book, and then your favorite non-superhero comic book movie. So, book and movie.
Oh, okay. Sure. Comic book movie, non-superhero.
Was like Unbreakable?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, technically
I
they're superheroes. I love Unbreakable. I'm trying to think of graphic novels that have been turned into movies that aren't comic books. I mean, sorry, that aren't superhero.
I mean, they made Sin City, but I don't know if the movie was good because I've only read it.
Yes. Sin City's great. I love Sin City. I mean, I just talked about how much I love noir. So that writing style, I'm like, I will read or watch anything that is in like boilerplate, hard-boiled gibberish, you know.
Oh yeah, I want them to make, because I love the graphic novels, Transmetropolitan. Mm-hmm. I love Transmetropolitan. It's like a future dystopian world, and it's, you know, the main character is Spider Jerusalem, like this kind of grungy reporter. Think like, I don't know, cool. Like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but in the future.
I'm into it. Yeah,
and
I'm down.
I remember reading all of those in my like college years. I would absolutely revisit that. That was really good.
I forgot that this was a graphic novel. I haven't read the graphic novel, but Edge of Tomorrow I love that movie. And it was based on a graphic novel. All You Need Is Kill, I think, is the name of the graphic novel. It's like a manga. Yeah. I think. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie as well. It was a big surprise.
I was actually going to ask, like, manga counts as graphic novels, right? I mean, to me it would. I don't think those are separate in my head.
Yeah.
But I like Death Note. The movie was horrible, though, so like, let's just undo that.
I haven't gotten to it yet. It's
a very good read. I used to keep it in my classroom, and I let one of my students from my first job have it when I moved.
I've heard very good things, but I haven't gotten to it. I just got back into anime. Actually, I haven't watched anime in like years and years and years, and since quarantine, I was like, well, it's time to fall back down that rabbit hole. Let's go. And so I've been catching up on a lot of stuff that I've been missing since the good old days.
Perfect. All right, we got a question from Dean Muramoto. Is there a designer you want to team up with?
Ooh, I have a lot of people who I really respect as designers. I really like Daryl Andrews a lot. He's a great person in the hobbies, the designer of Sagrada. He did Sinister Six, Spider-Man, IP, a bunch of other stuff. But he is just a great support structure. If you ever get a chance to meet him, and he'll talk to you about your game, and he's just great. But his designs have they're just easy. They just like flow, like you just like, oh, well, of course that's how that system works, or whatever. So I think that as a party game person, I have my mind works a little differently than maybe I guess more traditional board game structures will allow. So I think I'm really interested in working on a game where I can bring my eye for player interaction, my eye for storytelling, my eye for humor or whatever, and then mash that with somebody who has a more analytical eye and can crunch the numbers on like card distributions and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm working on, I think a lot of designers right now have suddenly gotten very interested in co-designing since the pandemic. We're all like going crazy. We need something to do. So I have a couple of designers who I'm working on things right now with. But yeah, Daryl Andrews is great. I think Erica Hayes Bouris, I can never pronounce her last name, is very talented as well. I mentioned Sin Fung Lim earlier. He does great stuff. He worked on the Avatar Pro Bending Arena game. Jesse Wright, this whole Meeple Syrup group. They have a Facebook group called Meeple Syrup. All of them kind of bring their own, have kind of a very distinct design personality. But a lot of the things that I have been doing recently, as I mentioned, this narrative work, is I have been doing some like side consulting, I guess, where there's a game that exists and they want a spin on it, or they want to increase the player interaction. Maybe it functions as a game, it's working, but like nobody's talking to each other, or it's just math, and so how do we make people talk, or how do we make people interact? How do we make memories happen?
Right.
How do we make events happen without something like an event deck? So I've gotten a chance to work on some cool games and kind of put my little fingerprints in there to make it a little bit more interactive. But yeah, I don't know. I work with anybody. I just I like to make weird stuff. So if you're working on something weird, at me.
Awesome. So this is probably a harder question than it looks like. Movie buff? Quick top 5 of favorite movies.
Oh gosh, that's not fair.
Which of your children do you love the most?
Yeah, sure. First, Breakfast Club, got to be way up there. The movie literally changed my life. I saw it at like the perfect time in high school and was like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Like, because I was very into like clique culture and like, thought everybody was my enemy who was not one of the nerds or whatever. And it really made me think about like everybody's just a person, you know, like they have their issues too. And it really opened me up out of this like weird shell that I had put myself in. You know, I started making friends with other groups. Anyway, so yeah, Breakfast Club is way up there. Gosh, what is something that I will watch a million times over and over again? The Goonies, Forrest Gump, you know, like Shawshank. I mean, pretty much these movies that just you can turn on it and it's halfway through the movie and you're like, well, it looks like I'm watching Shawshank. You can't. What are you gonna do? Turn the channel when Forrest Gump is on? No. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know if I have like 5 favorites. Movies I will always watch. Big Lebowski, for sure.
Excellent.
Animal House. Love Animal House. Weirdly, I love The Silence of the Lambs, and will watch that often.
Interesting.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
It's like creepy, but I really like it. I think I like how hard Clarice works and like watching her like grow as an agent. I know I like that storyline a lot. I normally don't like scary movies, but I don't know, it's more thriller, I guess. This is interesting. Indiana Jones.
Detective movie.
I particularly like the third one. I like Last Crusade the best, personally.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And E.T. I've watched E.T. a million times.
Elliot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wore out the tape as a child. I comfort watched it last week.
That was me with the Goonies. Yeah, I like broke that VHS. Yeah, just you get to a point where it's just too many. Like too many to pick 5. You know, you're like, give me a category. Like, what are my top 5 action movies? What are my top 5 80s movies? And then even then, we're going to be here for hours. Like,
right? I mean, you know, I rewatched The Princess Bride during quarantine. That's just still so good, too.
It's so delightful. Just hilarious and, you know, just great.
Funny, sweet. Speaking of genres, however, we have the wildest question tonight, I think, in terms of just imaginativeness. I like it. An evil world-dominating conglomerate is destroying all art, books, and entertainment. But your resistance can save everything from one genre. Fantasy, sci-fi, horror, superheroes. Which is it?
Okay, so they're... Dang. Personally, if I'm being purely selfish, probably sci-fi. Mostly because I think that genre tends to be the one that gets a lot of the that does a lot of heavy lifting as far as like social commentary and political commentary. It's like, you know, that's where dystopias, and a lot of those end up being science fiction. They're, you know, they start thinking about things before they exist. You know, we're thinking about AI ethics. Start thinking about genetically modified organisms. Like, you know, they're usually people are writing about that 40 years before it's even a thing that actually exists. So I think if a revolution was going to happen, if we were going to overthrow our evil overlords, you know, we might get inspired by, you know, some Divergent or something. So that's selfishly, but I think, you know, maybe just, I guess, like philosophy is what I would probably say if I'm thinking about just like humankind in general, because I think thinking about thinking is very important. And you know, philosophy isn't even as much about the answers, which is why I think it's frustrating for a lot of people. It's just asking questions and being willing to dig through the frustration of gray areas, because like that's what life is. And so if you have to wade through a gray area until you get to an ethos that you believe in, you know, you have a stronger sense of that ethos, I think, than when you know, you're just following a slogan or, you know, supporting a sports team or something like that, because that's where you grew up. If you have to work for your ethos, I think it is a little bit stronger. So yeah, globally, philosophy. If I have my own little suitcase of books, it's probably going to be sci-fi.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if what I like as a genre. I mean, the thing is, so I'll read or watch basically anything. I'm like an omni-consumer, but I don't know. Like, I like literary fiction. I don't really think that's a genre. I mean, I think that anything can be literary fiction, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I would...
Yeah.
That's hard. I don't know. I mean, I actually like your idea about philosophy. I'm a history nut. I might try to save all the history so we could, like, find out about the past and know what was missing. Like, the worst thing, like, about being trained as an ancient historian is, like, knowing what isn't there. Like, all the collections of quotes and stuff, where it's like, oh, this is from this lost work, and here's a really great snippy quote, but you don't actually have the complete work, and it's frustrating. But it's also, like, kind of beautiful in the sense that these things were there, and then they weren't, and, you know, you can see their little echoes that made it all the way to you from thousands of years ago. So for me, it's not philosophy, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, how can you study history without? I mean, it's studying history is, you know, there's two ways to look at it. There's an objectivity to it, which is trying to find out exactly what happened, you know, right. And that's where archaeology comes in, and anthropology, where we're studying cultures, we're studying artifacts, we're trying to build, you know, this understanding of a culture. I actually have a sociology party game that I won't bore you with, but it works with a lot of this. You might actually like it a lot, but yeah. So anyway, there's an objectivity. But what a lot of us learn is the subjectivity of history. You know, this history is written by the winners, and what were good decisions, what were bad decisions. Should they have fought that war? Should they have retreated? You know, and that's where you get into the philosophy of, you know, of government and of war and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have philosophy in your history.
You can have a history of philosophy. But yes, I also think, you know, history's not really interesting if it's just facts. You have to actually put something on it to make it worth, like, I think that's the most disappointing thing for my students is, like, they're always trying to learn facts for their history classes, and I'm like, you could just give them something to read. They could just read something and they would be all right. So, and then they could interpret it. All right, so actually, the last question I probably will go forever on this. Josh Jamrin wants to know, hey Josh, how often do you incorporate game design or gaming in general into the classroom, and how so if you do? So there's a long answer to this on my podcast, Beyond Solitaire, because Eric was a guest this past week. But let's talk about it again.
Yes. So the short version, because that was like a whole hour we talked about. As often as possible, I like to introduce game theory, I guess, into a lot of things that I do. So, you know, the most basic part of an RPG is choose your class, right? You know, so how do you want to approach this problem? Do you want to go at it brute force? Do you want to, like, mage, do magic or whatever, and be really creative with your, you know, your storytelling? So even a concept as simple as that as RPGs, I bring into the classroom as when I give my students choice in how they want to do an assignment. So I need you to tell me a story so that I know you understand story structure. If you want to make a film, make a film. If you want to do, you know, an audio recording or whatever, like an old 1950s radio play, do that. If you want to write a story, do that. If you want to illustrate a graphic novel, do that. In the same way that people like to RP different ways, you know, I think students should be able to kind of show their skills in different modes or in different mediums. So stuff like that. You know, the same way that I like Happy Salmon, because it kind of breaks some social taboos about adults acting like children. I do a lot of activities with students where we kind of toy with language or with technology and kind of think about things in a different way. You know, that's, as a designer, and I think we might have talked about this on the podcast, but I am more interested in things that are weird and unique and experiential than I am, even maybe the best of something that's like just mechanically based. Like I can, for a game like Shobu is a phenomenal design. It's chess-like cool, like the components. It's a beautiful game, but it's not something that I would probably design because it's a strategy game. It's a phenomenal version of what it is, but I need something that I don't know, has a narrative through line, I guess, or some like emotional weight, or something. You're putting yourself into it in some way. That's why a lot of my games involve creativity or involve perspective or communication. That's just what I'm more interested in. So I give my students a lot of opportunity for creativity as well. Not surprising, given the games that I design. Have my students write silly stories or doodle on their paper if they want to as part of their notes. There's different things in there, but as much as I can, make learning fun. And we talk about this on the podcast, but it's all about tricking them into learning. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down and all that stuff.
Right.
But if you, as a teacher, as a fellow teacher, you know that the content that we teach is like only a part of what we're doing. That's like what we get paid to do. But a lot of us have this like, self-imposed responsibility of like raising good people and well-adjusted adults, and people who are confident in themselves and who know their talents and who are responsible and who are good people and have empathy and all that kind of stuff. So I've taught different subjects, but I'm always looking for opportunities to grow students as people, not just teach them what nouns are or whatever. I'm going to make you make this creative project just so that you can do it. Yes, it's hard, but I want you to have that experience.
Yeah, it's actually it's similar for me. So I'm a Latin teacher, and my whole department, it's a department of 6 Latin teachers. We all place we all put a big emphasis on games, play. Actually, we spend a lot of the first 2 weeks of the entire year on building community in the classroom, and don't worry too much about like content of the class at all, because they're not going to learn if they don't feel. Yep. They don't feel connected. So, the other thing is, I don't know, I used to think school was fun, and I feel like everybody should get to have that experience. I want everybody to like school. Like, why do we expect kids to be miserable at the place where they spend most of their time? Like, school should be all fun and games, because that's how you learn anyway. I mean, nobody retains anything they learned the hard way. Does that make sense? Like, you gotta just, I don't know. I feel totally. like that that video, the pediatrician is like giving shots to the kid, but like singing and laughing, and so the kid doesn't even like realize they're getting shots.
That's basically it. Yeah,
it's our job. Like,
yeah, we're just giving shots all day long.
Yeah, exactly. Of knowledge. No. So we have a chat just kind of going about cats versus dogs, and cats potentially taking over the world. So we'll just close up with this goofy question: cat person or dog person?
I'm a dog person. However, cats love me. I have a very cat magnet lap for whatever reason. But if I sit, a cat will find my lap, and they like me a whole lot. But there are cats that I like, but I like every dog. So yeah, that's the way I would describe it.
I'm actually the other way. I'm very much a cat person, but I'm not at all surprised that cats like you, because cats are like kids. The more you want their attention, the less they want to give it to you.
Yeah. I'm the guy at the party who's like, oh, there's a cat. What if I pet the cat? And then it just is like, walks away from me the whole time. And then we sit down at dinner and, oh, look what's in my lap. There's the cat. So.
All right, so our hour is up, but before I actually close out the hour, where can we find you on the internet?
Sure. I am at Slauson Designs. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. You can find my games on Amazon or at the Genius Games or Deepwater Games or Bicycle website. So, and I'm actually doing on Twitter right now, I'm doing a series called Square Off, where I'm going square by square in my Kallax, and saying what my favorite game is in each square. So you can follow me to get some good recommendations, or kind of see what games I'm into.
Yes, I actually saw it today. It was brutal. Tough choices.
Very hard. Talk about, ranking your children. Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much for coming on with me tonight. I appreciate it. It's been great having you. And good night, everybody. Happy gaming.